Children are divided into two groups. The offense.
The series starts with a voiceover narration in which a man narrates about a game that he played when he was a kid in his town.
The rules are simple.
He talks about how to play, what the rules are, and how to win the game.
In order to win, the attackers must tap.
The game is called the Squid Game.
In my town, we had a game called the Squid Game. This is my daily allowance or what?
In the present day, Seong Gi-hun is an impoverished divorcee who works as a chauffeur, struggles with a gambling addiction, is knee-deep in debt, and still lives with his elderly mother, who works to make ends meet for both of them. On his daughter Ga-young's birthday, his mother gives him 20,000 won, around $17 USD, to buy her dinner and a present to his daughter.
Go buy her some fried chicken.
However, with other plans for the money, Gi-hun whines that 20,000 won't even be enough for a fried chicken dinner, so his mother reluctantly coughs up more before she scurries off to work. Gi-hun also takes her hidden bank card with the intent of stealing funds for him and his buddy to bet on the horse races. He wins big, but he is spotted by one of the loan sharks he owes a debt to. He runs, but a pickpocket steals his winnings, and he can't even pay them. Their leader makes Gi-hun sign a contract with his own blood that states that if he doesn't pay up by the next month, they'll take away his organs.
If you don't pay it off by next month, I'll take one of your kidneys.
That night, Gi-hun takes his daughter out for food with what little money he has left. He treats Ga-young to a basic birthday dinner of street food and a useless gift from a claw machine, a toy gun. Gi-hun feels disappointed that he can't give her as much as her stepfather, despite her reassurance that she prefers the street food over the fancy steak dinner her stepfather treated her to.
Eat up then.
After dropping her off back home, Gi-hun encounters a man at a train station who challenges him to DlE, a simple children's game where the aim is to throw and flip the other player's paper card over. Each round, whoever loses will give the other 100,000 won, around $85. However, since Gi-hun doesn't have that money, the salesman instead slaps him in the face when he loses. Determined to win, Gi-hun tries, and he is slapped multiple times until he finally wins. The salesman makes him an offer. He can do this same sort of thing again for much bigger prizes. He gives Gi-hun a card with a phone number and bids him farewell as he leaves on the incoming train, never breaking his mysterious smile. The next day, Gi-hun finds out from his mother that his ex-wife Jung-jae's new husband, who is Ga-young's stepfather, has gotten a new job offer and will be moving to the USA in a few months, which means Gi-hun won't be able to see her.
Moving to the US next year.
Gi-hun's mother, who's worried Ga-young might lose her connection to her Korean roots if she moves to America, notes that if he had more money, he'd be able to prove he's able to financially support her better and would be able to make a case for shared custody. Desperate to keep his daughter, Gi-hun takes out the card and calls the number. He has told me to wait at a street corner at night and give a passcode when a mysterious van pulls up. He's been ushered in next to some other people. Knockout gas is pumped into the van, and he falls unconscious. Gi-hun wakes up in a giant room full of bunk beds and wearing a green tracksuit marked with the number 456 on the breast. There are hundreds of other people in there too, each wearing a similar suit and number. A display reads that there are 456 participants in the game. Gi-hun meets 4 people: Player 1, an old man suffering from a brain tumor; Player 101, a gangster named Yeong-su; Player 67, the female pickpocket who stole his winnings at the horse races in the middle of a beatdown being delivered by Yeong-su, whom she had betrayed some time ago; and, to Gi-hun's amazement, Cho Sang-woo, Player 218, his childhood best friend who had attended and graduated from the prestigious Seoul National University and was thought to be financially successful.
We need help!
A voice rings out, and the people are ushered into lines and taken out. Masked men in pink jumpsuits and masks with symbols ranging from circles to triangles to squares explain that this is the game and that they can win cash prizes in the rounds to follow. One man complains, asking why they were drugged and brought here.
Put us to sleep coming here, and then you
The leader singles him out, revealing that the man is deep in debt. He then reveals that everyone here is in the same position, all in dire financial straits and in need of relief. All of them also signed away their physical rights before coming here. They're then given a second contract. Players can leave if the majority votes to leave, but they make no money. Everyone signs and proceeds to the next room.
Attention all players, the first game is about to begin.
An announcement rings out. All players assemble for the first game, which is revealed in the next room: red light, green light.
You will be playing red light, green light.
A giant doll stands at the end of an enclosure. It explains the rules, it sings the jingle and then turns around. If it sees a player moving while it's facing them, they are disqualified. They have 5 minutes to cross the finish line at the end of the room. Players 324 and 250 make a bet on who gets to the finish line first out of the 2 of them, with the winner getting $1 million. As the game begins, the players start running, with 250 and 324 sprinting well ahead of the pack. The doll turns around for the first time and sees player 324 moving. 250 cheekily comments on his loss, but then a loud bang rings through the stadium, and 324 sinks to the ground.
Player 324 eliminated.
250 initially thinks 324 is just being dramatic and tells him to quit the act, until he sees the other man vomit up blood and lay motionless. Then he realizes the man is dead and begins to run back in a panic. Unfortunately, the doll sees him moving as well, and he's soon riddled with bullets, his blood splattering on the face of player 306. She screams in horror, and she is killed as well. This leads to a bunch of players trying to run away in panic as they see what elimination truly means. Other bullets strike as other people move. A series of holes are seen around the walls of the enclosure, each containing a small turret. A woman's voice reiterates to the players that if they are caught moving, they will be disqualified. With this in mind, the other players attempt to continue. The old man is gleefully unaware and continues playing with gusto while Gi-hun, the pickpocket, Yeong-su, Sang-woo, and the other players gather their wits and continue forward. A deadly ballet ensues as people try to play the game but inevitably find themselves lacking. Bodies fall with every round. The turrets spit death perfectly. A masked man in black watches all the carnage unfold on a large screen in what looks like a control center and turns on a music player. Fly Me to the Moon plays as players are shot down mercilessly. Gi-hun is approaching the finish line as the others have already made it. However, as he's about to trip when the doll turns around, he's stopped and held up at the last second by player 199, a foreigner who makes it to the finish line with him at the very last second. Those who haven't made it across the finish line are disqualified and shot to death. It dawns on Gi-hun and the others that this isn't any ordinary game. This is life or death. The 201 remaining survivors of the first game, shaken by the revelation that elimination from these games actually means death, are terrified and frenzied. Everyone wants to quit the games and leave, begging the guards to release them and promising that they'll pay their debts. The guards clarify that the games aren't to punish them for their debts and remind them that they signed a contract stating that refusing to participate will get them killed. Sang-woo points out the third clause of the contract, which states that if a majority of players refuse to play, the games will be cancelled and they can be returned home.
We will take a vote to decide on the termination of the game.
The staffers agree to set things up so that the players can hold a vote. Before they do so, they lower a giant see-through piggy bank from a hole in the dorm ceiling and fill it up with stacks of cash totaling 25 billion Korean won. They reveal that each contestant is worth 100 million won and that the total prize pot will be 45.6 billion won. The guards further explain that the players can make a choice between leaving or staying and set up a voting machine with 2 buttons, a circle to continue and an X to leave. If they leave, they don't get any of the prize money. Gi-hun is the first to vote and votes not to continue, as do many others. The vote remains neck and neck all throughout, but eventually, Sang-woo and the other contestants willing to continue the games push the positive votes into the lead. A fight nearly breaks out as the contestants who want to leave get angry with those who want to continue, necessitating intervention from the guards.
Listen to this, you little shit. What the hell are you doing?
The counter-argument to leaving is that their lives outside of the game aren't going to improve. At least here, they have a chance to get the money. It's player 1, the old man with the brain tumor, who gets to cast the deciding vote and break the 100 minutes 100 tie. He chooses to quit the game. With that, everyone is dropped off back on the mainland, with the promise that if the majority of players want to continue the games after a few days, the games will be restarted.
If the majority of you wish to participate again, then we will resume the game. So, goodbye for now.
Gi-hun is dumped with player 67, the pickpocket who stole his money. Sang-woo, who is with player 199, charges his phone to discover a torrent of messages from the authorities. He nevertheless gives 199 cash for food and a bus ride back home. Gi-hun runs right to the cops to report what he's gone through, but none of them believe his story. The business card he gives as proof of the games is redirected to the wrong number, then a disconnected line. Only one of the cops, Detective Hwang Jun-ho, believes his story as he recalls it being similar to what happened to his missing brother. Discouraged, Gi-hun exits the police station and, while looking for his mother around town, bumps into Sang-woo, who confesses he owes a staggering 6 billion won due to a bunch of bad investments and had put his mother's fish store up for collateral in one of those deals. As they catch up, Gi-hun receives a worrying call from the hospital. The doctors inform him that his mother has been diagnosed with advanced diabetes, but she insists on leaving without treatment, even at the risk of her feet requiring amputation. Gi-hun asks his mother why she refuses to stay in the hospital, to which she coldly reminds Gi-hun that he had cancelled their health insurance and drained what little savings they had to get more money to fuel his gambling addiction, hence why they can't afford her taking the time off to get the treatment and recover. Racked with guilt, Gi-hun swears that he'll make things right and get the money.
I'll get what you need. I'll get all the money you need.
Jun-ho goes to his brother's apartment, where the landlady informs him that his brother's rent has already passed. While looking around, he finds the same card that Gi-hun had. The pickpocket, a North Korean defector named Kang Se-byok, visits her little brother Cheol, who is staying in a children's home as she can't afford a bigger place for them both to stay in. Cheol hates how the other children bully him and claim that his sister abandoned him at the orphanage. Se-byok consoles her brother, reassuring him that she will get him out of the orphanage and rescue their mother from North Korea. Player 199, a Pakistani immigrant named Ali, goes to his boss, who refuses to pay him the 6 months of wages he owes him with the excuse that he doesn't have money, but fails to hide an envelope full of cash in his pocket. Enraged by his boss' greed, a fight ensues, which ends with the boss' hand getting mangled in a piece of heavy machinery and Ali stealing the money and running away, now jobless.
Hey, you can't just leave!
Se-byok visits the broker she hired, only to find out the deed has absconded with her money. She threatens the guy who connected her with the missing broker, but that doesn't get her money back. Sang-woo talks to his mother over the phone, lying to her that he's on a business trip, before attempting to kill himself in a bathtub by inhaling charcoal fumes. As she talks up his success to a client, 2 police officers approach her and inform her that Sang-woo has a warrant out for his arrest, being charged with forgery, embezzlement, and other crimes related to fraud, much to her disbelief. Sang-woo's suicide attempt is interrupted when someone calls at his door, leaving him only a card from the games. Ali returns home that night, his wife alarmed at how he's covered in blood and wondering how he suddenly got a stack of money. Ali only tells her to buy tickets for the first plane back to their home in Pakistan for her and their child and leave him behind to support the family, assuring her that he loves her and will join them once he's finished his job in Korea. Determined to save his mother, Gi-hun first tries to ask a friend to give him a job, to no avail. He then encounters Player 1 at a store and catches up with him. The old man wonders if he and Gi-hun were destined to meet each other. The old man notes that the outside world is its own kind of hell and tells Gi-hun that he's decided to re-enter the games, not wanting to wait for his tumor to end him with a slow and painful death.
I decided to go in again.
Player 101, a gangster named Yeong-su, reconnects with one of his criminal underlings, showing him the game card he got and ordering him to gather as many people as he can, figuring they can follow the game vans, break into the island, and steal the money themselves. Naturally, Yeong-su's underling doesn't believe him and casually informs Yeong-su that he sold him out and drove him right to a bridge surrounded by armed goons from a Filipino casino, where Yeong-su racked up a small fortune in debt without paying it up. He kills the traitor and jumps off the bridge to escape, swimming to safety. In a desperate last resort, Gi-hun begs his ex-wife, Jung-jae, for help, only to find that she and her current husband are also struggling to make ends meet. They begin arguing about the events that led to their divorce and Gi-hun's inability to step up and be the responsible father Ga-young needs. Ga-young's stepfather offers to lend the cash to Gi-hun on the condition that he cease all contact with Ga-young. Infuriated by the proposal, Gi-hun angrily rejects the money and leaves.
Do you think money solves everything?
On his way home, he encounters Jun-ho. Believing he would be arrested, he initially dismisses the pleas of the Squid Games as him just being drunk, but when Jun-ho informs him that he needs his help to save his brother, Gi-hun rejects it, feeling useless.
That I would be useful to you or anybody else.
Ultimately, everyone decides to return to the games, waiting on the street at midnight to be picked up by the cars, and Jun-ho sneaks around by following the route of the cars. As the vans carrying the players travel to their destination, Jun-ho follows them and hides, subduing a guard and stealing his clothes and mask to infiltrate the inner workings of the games. After waking up in the dorms, the players are more prepared and start forming alliances. Gi-hun, Sang-woo, Player 1, and Ali team up, and note that most players returned, including Player 212, Han Mi-nayo, who was the first to beg to leave.
I'll do it, I'll pay it all.
Se-byok sneaks into the vents and observes staff workers in a kitchen.
Attention! The second game will begin shortly.
In the second game, the players are to pick a stamped shape out of a dalgona. Sang-woo identifies the game quickly, using information from Se-byok, but does not warn his teammates and picks the simplest shape for himself.
I'm dead.
Gi-hun completes the game despite having the highest difficulty shape, an umbrella, by licking the back of the honeycomb to melt the thinner outline of the shape. Player 212 helps Yeong-su complete the game with a smuggled lighter.
244, 69 pass.
A player takes a higher-ranked staff member hostage before killing himself. The staff member is killed by a person wearing a black mask.
Remember, once they find out who you are, you die.
Jun-ho takes the new mask from the eliminated staff. Player 111, a doctor, is working with a handful of staff to harvest organs from the dead players in exchange for information on what the next game will be. He joins Yeong-su's team by offering them the information he's learned in the hopes of getting their protection.
I know what
the next game is.
Meanwhile, Gi-hun realizes that Sang-woo could have helped their team in the previous game but forgives him because they're alive and together as a team, so that's what matters.
Don't worry, okay?
Yeah, the whole team made it.
The staff foments discord among the players when Yeong-su and his team steal more food for themselves, leaving others without. When one confronts him, Yeong-su kills the player, which adds another 100 million won to the prize money total. After the lights go out, a riot erupts and numerous players are killed. Player 67 joins Gi-hun's team, which protects her from Yeong-su's gang. When Player 1 begs everyone to stop, the front man sends his soldiers to end the riot.
We are all gonna die in here! Keep this going!
Gi-hun's team exchanges names to build trust. Player 199 is Ali Abdul, and Player 67 is Kang Asae-byok. Player 1, however, seems to have trouble speaking and remembering his name. While the staff retires for the night, the guard in the room next to Jun-ho sends him a message by coughing in Morse code.
Morse code?
The third game will begin momentarily.
In the third game, players are told to form groups of 10. Yeong-su, knowing that the upcoming game is tug of war thanks to the doctor's intelligence, picks the biggest and strongest men and rejects player 212. And Nayo, despite her having helped him previously and even trading sex with him, leaving her to join Gi-hun's team of weaker players, which includes him, Sang-woo, Ali, and Asae-byok, as well as players 1 the old man, 240 another young woman named Jae-yo, 196 a paranoid grouch, 244 a misogynistic pastor, and 276 the only other non-Korean contestant besides Ali.
I would now like to welcome you all to the third game.
Yeong-su's team easily beats its opponent, leaving them falling off the platform they're playing on into their deaths. Player 1 gives the team advice on how to best their opponent.
Hold the rope in your armpit.
It initially works, but then the opposing side gets a second wind. Sang-woo says it's time for their next solution, much to Nayo's horror. After utilizing Sang-woo's plan B, Gi-hun's team wins their tug-of-war match, but most of them are unnerved at having to kill the opposing team. Expecting another riot, Gi-hun's team builds a barricade, which Yeong-su mocks until Gi-hun turns the tables by pointing out to Yeong-su that he shouldn't fully trust his teammates, all of whom have similar criminal histories. That night, Gi-hun's teammates took turns on watch, but Yeong-su's team did not attack. It is then that player 1 catches a delirious fever.
Wait right here. Okay, we need to lower your fever.
29. What happened yesterday? Where were you?
Meanwhile, Jun-ho learns about the black market organ harvesting operation the other guards are running with player 111. He's expected to help deliver the product with another guard. As they get ready to swim out off the island to meet with their clients, Jun-ho's partner reveals he knows Jun-ho is not a real guard, and a confrontation ensues, with Jun-ho killing the other guard. Meanwhile, the rest of the operation comes to a crashing end when the front man catches them. The front man executes the remaining members of the conspiracy for giving a player an unfair advantage and kills player 111 as well. Upon seeing the dead guard, he calls for a facility-wide manhunt for Jun-ho. Jun-ho avoids detection and gets into the front man's living quarters. He finds an office with an archive of records of the games going as far back as 1988, and his brother, H-Wang and Ho, was the winner in 2015.
You know.
What should we do?
Begin the next game.
The surviving players proceed to the next game and have to pick a partner. Gi-hun notices that player 1 had wet himself the previous night and covers it up by tying his tracksuit around his waist. As the players walk through the staircase room, they notice the bodies of Byung-gi and his co-conspirators strung up. The front man then says over the intercom that the game was created with equality in mind and reiterates that there is no tolerance for cheating in the games.
Each and every one of you is considered an equal.
Jun-ho explores the front man's office, trying to get more information on him. While this is happening, the players are told to partner up with someone. Sang-woo and Ali pair up, with the former figuring they'd make a great team due to the combination of Sang-woo's intelligence and Ali's physical strength. Gi-hun declines partnering up with player 62 when he sees player 1 sitting in the corner without a partner and offers to partner up with him instead, which the old man accepts. Jae-young player 240 and Asae-byok decide to pair up for the game. By this point, everyone has a partner besides Nayo, who is taken away by their guards, presumably to be eliminated. They are then introduced to the fourth game, Marbles.
In this game, using your set of 10 marbles.
To win the game, the players have to try to steal all of their opponent's marbles without violence while playing a sub-game with them. The person who ends up with no marbles is killed off and eliminated. They have a time limit of 30 minutes. If no one wins by then, both players will be eliminated. Their opponent in the game is who they chose to be their partner. This comes as a shock to everyone, as they had partnered up with someone they trusted, not knowing what the game really was, especially players 69 and 70, a married couple.
Oh boy.
The four main pair-ups are Sang-woo and Ollie, player 1 and Gi-hun, Sae-byok and Jae-young, and Deok-su and one of his cronies, player 278. Sang-woo and Ollie begin playing the game. Ollie supposedly doesn't know how to play that well, so Sang-woo teaches him, and Ollie ends up gaining the upper hand quickly. Sang-woo quickly grows nervous about Ollie, and though Ollie is clearly unhappy about beating Sang-woo, the latter forces him to keep playing. Eventually, Sang-woo is down to his last marble and furiously accuses Ollie of cheating. Ollie denies this, and before Sang-woo can grow more violent, he is stopped by one of the guards at gunpoint.
Spill it!
Sae-byok and Jae-young, meanwhile, decide to spend the next 30 minutes talking to each other instead of playing. They start revealing their pasts to each other, with Sae-byok telling Jae-young that a plague in her home village in North Korea had killed her grandfather, grandmother, and older brother. Sae-byok explains that her family decided to escape to South Korea, seeking a better life, but only she and her younger brother crossed the border successfully, as her father was shot and killed attempting to cross and her mother was caught and deported back.
She was hiding in China and got sent back once the immigration agents found her.
Jae-young reveals that she and her mother were abused by her father, who was a pastor, and would pray for forgiveness every time he abused them. One day, after coming home from school, she found her father had murdered her mother, and Jae-young killed him out of retribution. She had received the Squid Game card the same day she was released from prison. Jae-young asks Sae-byok what she would do if she won, to which Sae-byok replies she'd get her mother out of North Korea, buy a nice house for herself and her family to live in, and maybe go on a vacation to Jeju Island. Jae-young chides her for having such a basic vacation in mind, telling her to aim for something more extravagant and promising to take her out on a girls' night out shopping before somberly remembering their situation.
Well, once we're out of here, we'll have a girls' night out and make mojitos and everything, okay? We can't both get out of here.
Meanwhile, Deok-su is losing to player 278 and starts to get angry. He reminds the guard near them that the game was created with equality in mind and that everyone is equal. He asks if he could have a second chance against player 278. The guard says yes. The pair decides to throw marbles into a hole in the ground, and whoever lands the throw gets to keep all the other marbles that have also been thrown in previous attempts. Player 278 is about to win when, in a twisted turn of events, his own marble knocks Deok-su's marble into the hole, making Deok-su the winner. Deok-su is beyond ecstatic and laughs at his henchman's fate before rushing over to collect their marbles. Player 278 runs away before a guard can shoot him, but runs into more guards who gun him down quickly. Gi-hun tries to play the game with player 1, but the old man seemingly has suffered a severe lapse in his lucidity. Player 1 wanders around the game arena, saying this is his home neighborhood, and tries to find his house. Because of the old man's confusion, it takes a lot of insistence for Gi-hun to convince him to play. When player 1 finally accepts to play marbles, Gi-hun finds himself losing until he has one marble left, but realizing player 1 cannot remember his bet, he lies to him and begins winning back their marbles. Eventually, player 1 finds himself out of his marbles and asks Gi-hun if he could borrow one. Gi-hun apologizes and is about to hand over his marbles to a guard when player 1 reveals he has one marble left. Gi-hun then frantically counts his marbles, and sure enough, he is one short and has not won yet. However, instead of continuing the game, player 1 gets back up again and continues searching for his house.
My wife and I had this one here.
Sang-woo then begs Ollie for his life and for his family, as he can't die and leave his mother. But Ollie says that he has a family and a life too. Sang-woo, however, tells Ollie of a plan where they can both survive by finding other teams that have not yet finished their games. Sang-woo explains that when the timer runs out, some teams may still have no winner, and the guards will have the remaining players play a new game in teams, which they can then both win. Sang-woo sends Ollie to find stronger players to recruit into their team and ties Ollie's pouch of marbles around his neck to prevent anyone else from stealing them. Ollie seems hesitant, but ultimately trusts Sang-woo and goes off to find other pairs. However, while Ollie is away, Sang-woo reveals that he has hidden all of the marbles for himself and informs a guard that he has won the challenge.
I have 20 marbles.
As the game's timer starts running out, Sae-byok and Jae-young begin to play the game. They decide that whoever throws the marble closest to the wall near them wins. Sae-byok throws her marble, and it lands reasonably close to the wall, but to her immense shock, Jae-young simply drops her marble, allowing her to win. When Sae-byok angrily confronts her, Jae-young explains that ever since they started opening up to each other, she realized that she had nothing left to fight for in the outside world. While Sae-byok still had a reason to live, and tearfully asks Sae-byok to live her life to the fullest if she is ever able to leave alive. As Sae-byok is led away, Jae-young calls out to her one last time and emotionally expresses her gratitude towards Sae-byok for playing the game with her before getting shot dead. While Sae-byok cannot bring herself to look at her friend in her last moments, only being able to listen in anguish and devastation. Meanwhile, Ollie has finished searching the compound but sees Sang-woo already at the exit, about to be let out by a guard. Shocked, Ali checks his pouch and finds only small pebbles. He realizes that he has been deceived by his friend before being shot by a guard, while Sang-woo can only look away. During all of this, Gi-hun follows player 1 around, begging him to keep playing. The old man suggests betting everything on one game, and Gi-hun is outraged. However, player 1 then reveals that he was aware of Gi-hun's deception the whole time and has been letting him win. Disgusted at his own actions, Gi-hun begins to cry, but player 1 hands him his last marble, letting him win anyway, saying that they're jigambu who share everything with each other. Gi-hun sobs uncontrollably while the old man hugs and reassures him, telling him that he made his time in the games more enjoyable.
Everything's okay.
Eventually, the timer hits 0 and Gi-hun is forced to leave his friend. Before Gi-hun is escorted out, player 1 tells Gi-hun he finally remembers his full name.
I remember my name now. My name is Il-nam. Oh, Il-nam.
After Gi-hun leaves Il-nam with a soldier, a gunshot is heard, and the announcer says that player 1 has been eliminated.
Player 1 eliminated.
Gi-hun continues to slowly walk away, crying. The survivors of the 4th game return to their room and discover Mai Nayo was not executed, despite not having participated in the game. The players are all shocked by this, especially Yeong-su.
Deok-su, honey.
How?
Frontman speaking. The host is currently waiting for the VIPs to arrive.
The front man welcomes the VIP guests to the facility for a front row viewing of the games. The mood back in the dorms is solemn, with most of the players having lost the person they were closest to in the games. Gi-hun is still shaken by the previous game, while Sae Byok slowly eats her meal. Sang-woo, however, seems unaffected and tells Gi-hun not to beat himself up so much as Il-nam was merely a random person he met a few days ago and already an old man who was close to death's door anyway, pointing out that player 69 is in a worse situation as he was forced to play against his wife, player 70. It's then that player 69 begs the remaining players to vote to end the games, clearly in agony over losing his wife, but Sang-woo berates him, saying that all their effort will be for nothing if they quit. Gi-hun and the other players can only look on in pity, knowing Sang-woo is right. The next morning, the players wake up to find that player 69 has hanged himself out of heartbreak from the trauma. Most are shocked and horrified, including a guilt-ridden Sang-woo, except Yeong-su, who is overjoyed as his chances of winning have only increased. Eventually, the players are led to their 5th game, but first enter a room with 16 mannequins, each with their own numbered vest. When the PA announces that the numbers on the vests correspond to the order in which they will play the game, naturally, the players rush to get the middle numbers as they seem to be the safest, but Gi-hun is too slow and is left with only 1 and 16, first and last. Before Gi-hun can pick the first vest, player 96 approaches him and asks to have vest 1 instead, since he wants to take initiative in his life for once and thusly wants to be the first to play the game, to which Gi-hun agrees.
Please just give me the...
Hello, players. Let me welcome you all to the 5th game.
The group is brought into the next room, which is modeled after a circus tent, with 2 columns of multiple glass panels ahead of them. The PA announces that they will be playing the Stepping Stones game. In each row, there is 1 tempered glass panel, which can support the weight of 2 players, and a normal glass panel, which will break if even 1 player lands on it. The objective is to cross to the other side before the 16-minute time limit runs out. Player 96, the first one in line, is hesitant to jump. The other players beg him to not waste time, and Yeong-su walks up to him, threatening to push him off if he doesn't go. Eventually, player 96 jumps onto the first panel and reveals it to be safe, but isn't as lucky for the second and falls to his death. Jung-ho kills a waiter and assumes his identity. He serves the VIPs as they watch the 5th game and bet on the players. VIP 4 develops an attraction to Jung-ho and orders him to take off his mask, threatening to kill him if he doesn't comply. Knowing he will be executed if he removes his mask, Jung-ho asks him to go somewhere private. In the secluded room, the VIP takes off Jung-ho's mask and then takes off his own clothes. The VIP attempts to molest him, but Jung-ho attacks and subdues the VIP and holds him at gunpoint. Jung-ho then films the VIP, offering to spare his life if he tells Jung-ho everything he knows about the game. The VIP is later found alive but unconscious in that room, but Jung-ho has already escaped, with the search for him continuing. As the game progresses, the players near the start of the line fall to their deaths, while at the same time marking out a clear path for the remaining players. Gi-hun notes that there are enough glass tiles left for the last few players to cross without having to guess, but Sang-woo warns him that if the players in front waste time, they too will be in danger at the back. When Yeong-su gets to the front, he refuses to continue, confirming Sang-woo's warning. Mai Nayo taunts Yeong-su and calls him a coward, but the latter still refuses to budge. Mai Nayo tells Yeong-su she will go first, but when Yeong-su allows her to cross, she wraps her arms around him. Yeong-su struggles but is unable to pry her off of him. Mai Nayo, fulfilling her promise that she would have her revenge for him betraying her in the third game, throws both herself and Yeong-su off the bridge, killing them both in a murder-suicide. As the timer runs down, only 4 players are left: Gi-hun, Byok, Sang-woo, and player 17, the lattermost being at the front of the line. He claims to have been a glass manufacturer with over 30 years of experience and says that if viewed from a certain angle, tempered glass will have faint stain marks. He correctly guesses the next correct panel, much to the relief of the other 3. However, when the frontman turns off the lights, he is unable to determine the last correct panel. With time running out, Sang-woo mercilessly shoves player 17 off and into the last trick panel, sending him falling to his death. Byok and Gi-hun are in shock but have no time to react as the timer approaches 0. The remaining 3 players safely make it across just as the timer runs out, and the remaining glass panels are shattered, sending sharp glass shards among the 3 remaining players. Jung-ho has escaped the island where the games were being held and managed to reach another nearby island. He checks his phone and sees that it has no signal, so he runs toward a mountain. However, the front man and a group of soldiers are following Jung-ho and arrive on the island soon after. They find Jung-ho's diving pack, and the front man orders the soldiers to find Jung-ho and bring him back alive.
Bring him to me alive.
Jung-ho sees them and hides in the bushes. He looks at his phone and finally gets a bit of signal, so he calls the police for backup and tries to send the videos he took, but his police chief can barely hear him. Meanwhile, the 3 remaining players are back in the lobby. Gi-hun and Sang-woo argue about whether Sang-woo pushing player 17 was necessary while Byok rests on her bed. Gi-hun accuses Sang-woo of killing a man unnecessarily, but Sang-woo reminds Gi-hun that he was at the back and didn't have to dirty his hands when they were almost out of time to finish the game safely. Gi-hun asks Sang-woo if he would have killed him if he were in player 17's position. Sang-woo doesn't answer and instead tears into Gi-hun for being irresponsible and always getting into trouble. Gi-hun in turn throws it back at Sang-woo, pointing out that the pride of Sang-mandong fell right into the same shithole and has no one to blame but himself for his own dire financial situation. The argument is interrupted by a manager, and some workers carrying boxes enter the lobby to congratulate them for being the finalists and give them the boxes.
We have prepared a special gift for each of you.
Byok goes into a bathroom to get ready. While changing, Byok is then revealed to have been impaled by a large shard of glass from when the bridge exploded in the previous game. She painfully removes the glass shard from her abdomen and quickly tears off her shirt to wrap it around the wound to prevent further bleeding. She then opens the box to reveal a tuxedo. The finalists are given a nice steak dinner in the lobby as a prize for having come this far. Gi-hun and Sang-woo dig into their meals, eyeing each other down, while a clearly weakened Byok barely touches her food. After the meal, workers clean the table and leave the players' steak knives. The players keep the knives and go to their beds. Jung-ho is still being pursued by the front man and several guards. He is now on top of the slope, and the soldiers finally corner him. Jung-ho threatens them that he already sent the videos that he took to the police, but the front man doubts it because of the island's poor reception. As the front man gets closer, Jung-ho nervously steps back because of the edge and shoots the front man in the shoulder. The soldiers get ready, but the front man stops them and instead tells Jung-ho to come with them. Jung-ho asks who he is. The front man doesn't answer and instead takes his mask off to reveal that he is Hwang In-ho, Jung-ho's missing brother.
In-ho.
Jung-ho is shocked and speechless, and when In-ho extends his hand, asking him to come along, Jung-ho can only shake his head in disbelief. In-ho points his gun at his brother, and all Jung-ho can ask is why, before In-ho shoots him in the shoulder, causing him to fall into the ocean, seemingly to his death. In-ho puts on his mask again and goes back to his room, where he remembers his brother asking why before shooting him.
In-ho, why?
Back in the dorms, the finalists rest on their beds. Gi-hun goes over to Byok, who readies her knife, but Gi-hun assures her that he's not going to harm her and hides his knife in his jacket. They talk about what they will do after winning the money and their families, and they promise each other that they will take care of them should one die. Gi-hun notices Sang-woo falling asleep and takes out his knife, but Byok stops him, telling him that he is not a killer. Gi-hun then hears Byok slump over in her bed and uncovers her wound, which is bleeding profusely. Byok deliriously asks to go home. Gi-hun quickly runs to the door and begs for help. The doors finally open and the lights turn on, but instead of help, the workers walk past Gi-hun carrying a coffin. Gi-hun turns around and sees Sang-woo covered in blood near Byok's bed. Gi-hun runs over to a lifeless Byok and cradles her in his arms before discovering a stab wound in her neck. Realizing that Sang-woo had killed her with the knife in his hand, he furiously grabs his own knife to attack Sang-woo, but both are quickly brought down by soldiers. As the other soldiers slowly carry Byok's body into her coffin, Gi-hun wails in agony. There is no relation to these frontmen.
Fill my heart with song
For the final game,
You'll both be playing Squid Game.
The sixth and final game is the Squid Game, with Gi-hun on offense and Sang-woo on defense. Gi-hun easily completes the first few stages of the game, throwing sand into Sang-woo's eyes to distract him and crossing the squid's middle. As they're playing, Sang-woo claims that killing Sae-byok was a mercy kill as she was already bleeding to death from her stomach wound, but Gi-hun sees through Sang-woo's lies. Eventually, Sang-woo admits he killed Sae-byok to prevent her and Gi-hun from obtaining the majority vote to end the game, which would have prevented him from winning any money. Before Gi-hun can reach the squid's head, the game devolves into a brutal and bloody fistfight and artificial rain between the two former friends. Gi-hun is able to get the upper hand on Sang-woo and mercilessly punches him repeatedly, but, to the surprise of the VIPs, he refuses to complete the game. He invokes the third clause to end the game and offers Sang-woo a chance to go back home, but Sang-woo, knowing he can't live with his guilt and refusing to go out empty-handed, stabs himself in the neck and asks Gi-hun to take care of his mother in his dying moments.
My mother, go help her.
Gi-hun cradles a dying Sang-woo in his arms, distraught but helpless to do anything as Sang-woo bleeds to death, crying uncontrollably as he is declared the winner of the 2020 Squid Games by default.
You should celebrate.
Gi-hun is driven back home in a limousine, accompanied by the front man, who congratulates him on his victory. Gi-hun, seething with rage, demands answers, but the front man simply advises him to think of his experiences as a dream. He's then dropped off on the side of a road with a blindfold over his eyes and a debit card for a checking account with the prize money.
Checking your eyes.
After a brief encounter with Sang-woo's mother, Gi-hun returns home, only to find that his own mother has already succumbed to her diabetes. Being so emotionally drained after his horrific experiences and racked with guilt at not being able to save his mother, Gi-hun is unable to even cry anymore and can only lie down beside his mother and hug her close in grief. A year later, Gi-hun is still traumatized by his experiences, so much so that he has barely touched his prize money. He is invited to the bank to talk to a financial advisor about his account. The advisor becomes concerned with how Gi-hun looks and is behaving, asking him if he needs anything. Gi-hun simply asks for a 10,000 Korean won bill. Later that night, he goes to sit and drink beer by the riverside. A flower seller approaches him and begs him to buy one of the flowers in her bouquet. Gi-hun reluctantly agrees, and the seller thanks him and leaves. It's then that he sees an invitation card with the game symbols attached to the rose and instructions to arrive at a specific address. He follows the address to a luxury apartment complex, where he finds player 1, Il-nam, still alive but on the verge of death. Gi-hun is shocked and furious and demands answers, but Il-nam insists on making a bet with Gi-hun about whether anyone will help an unconscious drunk man outside before midnight. Gi-hun reluctantly agrees to the wager to get the answers he wants.
So then, who are you?
Il-nam reveals that he is the host, who co-ran the game alongside the front man and is the mastermind behind the game's operation and creation. Il-nam explains that while he did lie about his financial situation, he was telling the truth about his tumor, and he genuinely did appreciate Gi-hun's friendship. He further elaborates that over the years after becoming wealthy, he came to feel that both the impoverished and the ultra-wealthy suffered from a lack of joy in their lives, as he himself became deeply bored from being able to buy literally anything he could want. So he and a bunch of other rich people came up with the games to entertain themselves and alleviate their boredom. He also wanted to test whether humanity had any innate goodness left in it, reminding Gi-hun that despite witnessing the bloodshed in the initial game, he and the other participants still returned and risked their lives for the sake of earning the prize money for themselves. The specific games are based on Il-nam's childhood memories, and he decided to participate himself for nostalgia's sake, as his childhood, where he would play games with his friends without a care in the world, was the only time in his life he ever felt true happiness. Right before the clock strikes midnight, Gi-hun wins the wager when a passerby and a police officer pull up over the side of the road to help the drunk man, and Il-nam dies, though presumably not before he witnesses his loss.
Look at that. There's someone who cares.
With his faith restored, Gi-hun snaps out of his stupor and fulfills his promises, getting Sae-byok's brother out of the orphanage and leaving him in the care of Sang-woo's mother, in addition to giving them a share of the prize money.
Hey, Daddy's almost at the airport now. I'll be boarding the flight soon.
Gi-hun is about to go on a flight to Los Angeles to reconnect with his daughter, but on the way, he sees the same salesman who had recruited him the year prior, playing DlE with another prospective recruit. Gi-hun takes the man's card and calls the number, demanding answers. The front man tells Gi-hun not to get any ideas, but Gi-hun disregards the warnings and declares that he won't let their cruel games continue and that he will put a stop to them.
I can't forgive you for everything you're doing.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and smash the bell button. Write in the comments section what kind of movie you would like to see next.